So this is, I guess, my first video on fanfiction reading. So I hope you guys will enjoy, even though I have a very crappy voice. And yeah, there may be a slight background noise, but I hope that won't bother you guys as much. The true writer of this fanfic, I guess, or story, is I left the link in the description. Please go check them out as well. And with that out of the way, let's go on with the video. No one's POV. Kageyama, let's go! Hinata Shoyo yells, grabbing his friend's wrist and dragging him out of the classroom. Dumbass, let me go! Kageyama Tobio retorts, shaking him off. Shoyo pouts at him, but then continues to walk anyway. Fine, but come on, we'll be late, Shoyo states, walking a bit faster. What's the rush? Tobio asks, glaring at the orange-haired boy. Shoyo glances at Tobio with a mischievous glint in his eyes. It's a surprise. Shoyo pushes open the doors and jumps into the gym, with Tobio trailing behind him. We're here, he pronounces, with a large grin on his face. You're so loud, Tobio grumbles, pushing past him. Hey, you wanna fight? Shoyo challenges, staring at Tobio. Not in the mood, he replies, turning away from the hot-headed boy and walking over to the changing rooms. Shoyo follows soon after. Shoyo glances at his phone for the 7th time. His eyes seem to be glued to the screen. The others notice this, but choose to take it as Hinata being Hinata. Hurry up, Kei calls as he walks out the changing room doors. Yeah, Shoyo mumbles, taking one last glance at his phone before grabbing it and running out. Shoyo walks over to the bench where Shimizu Kyoko sits, with a notebook in her hands. He places his phone on the bench just a few centimeters from where she sits. Tell me if it rings, please, he asks, smiling at the beautiful girl. Kyoko nods, then fixes her gaze onto her notebook. Feeling happy with her response, Shoyo runs over to join the others. Time skip halfway through practice. A faint ringing sound fills Shoyo's ears and he sprints towards his phone. Oi! Tobio shouts, annoyed. Shoyo ignores Tobio's complaining, snatches up his phone and presses answer. Are you here yet? He yells into his phone, with excitement dancing in his eyes. His mouth turns upward at something the person on the other line says. Great, just come in. He continues to yell into his phone and begins to hop around, unable to keep in his excitement. Pressing the end call button, Shoyo puts his phone back onto the bench and resumes what he was doing. Who is that? Sugawara Koshi questions, looking at Shoyo curiously. You'll see, he replies, the smile still present on his face. The team, excluding Shoyo, stares at him, trying to think of what he's talking about. Just as everyone was about to ignore his strange behavior, the main door slowly creaks open, and just insert the color of your hair here, haired girl peeks out. From behind the door, she scans the room for a certain orange-haired boy, and finally locks eyes with him. A smile adorns her features as she runs towards Shoyo. Brother! The girl yells, wrapping her arms around him. Brother? The rest of the team cry, staring at the duo. Shoyo pushes his sister off him gently and turns towards his team. He nods at the girl. Oh, sorry. She starts rubbing her arm nervously. I'm Wayan. Hinata. It's nice to meet you all. Wayan introduces herself, her face flushed a pale pink color out of embarrassment. Everyone stares. Shoyo never mentioned about having a sister. Nishinoya and Tanaka glance at each other before they rush towards Wayan. Cute. How can a pretty girl like you be Hinata's sister? Do you have a boyfriend, Hinata-chan? Hey! Shoyo shouts, placing a protective arm in front of his sister. Wayan giggles at her brother's protectiveness and gives his shoulder a reassuring pat. She looks up and rubs her neck nervously. Shoyo said I could watch your volleyball practice today. Is that okay? She asks, glancing at the floor. Koshi smiles at her. Sure, you can sit beside Shimizu over there. Koshi points over to where Kyoko sat. Thanks. Wayan beams, bowing before running over to sit next to Kyoko. It was nice meeting you all, she yells. Shoyo! YN calls, grabbing his attention. Shoyo sends Tobio a sheepish grin before walking over to his sister. Hmm? He hums, standing in front of where she sat. Hey, is that the king? YN whispers, her eyes locked on Tobio's form. He's amazing. She breathes, her eyes never leaving him. Shoyo's smile grows even wider. I know! He cries, jumping slightly. YN reluctantly tears her gaze away from Tobio and back at her brother. But she interrupts, raising her eyebrows. Shoyo tilts his head. You've definitely improved, she admits, grinning at him. Shoyo's eyes lighten up. You really think so? He screams, catching the attention of a certain black-haired volleyball player. Uh-huh, YN responds. Looks like I don't have to help you that much anymore. Oi, Hinata, what's taking you so long? Tobio asks rather rudely, tapping Shoyo's shoulder. YN glanced up to look at Kageyama. His cold gaze meets hers and they lock eyes for a moment. So, this is King. YN thinks to herself with a look of amusement on her face. Shoyo turns to look at Kageyama and flashes him a grin. Calm down, he states, running back onto the court. Kageyama takes one last look at YN before following Shoyo. As Kageyama throws the ball up, he feels like he's being watched. Flicking his hand forward, he sends the ball soaring across the gym, and from the corner of his eye, he can see YN observing him carefully. Shoyo dives to receive the ball and it bounces back over the net. Kageyama catches the ball and was about to throw it up again. He was helping Shoyo practice his receives when a petite hand reaches out and grabs his wrist, stopping him. Kageyama's head snaps up and he is met with YN's piercing. Insert your eye color here. With YN's piercing eyes. What are you doing? He spits, snatching his wrist back. You're putting more force into your wrist than you need to, and your right foot needs to be back more, YN explains nonchalantly. Kageyama's eyes widen and he stares at you for a moment. What? He says, a flash of confusion in his eyes. Here, let me help. YN volunteers, leaning down and pushing his right leg back slightly. Stay like that, she mumbles, snapping back up and grabbing his wrist. Use your arm more, not your wrist, she states, demonstrating by pretending to hit a volleyball with her free arm. That way, your serves are more controlled. She finishes, stepping back, she scans Kageyama from head to toe and nods her head. Try that, YN says before running back to her spot on the bench. Kageyama watches her figure for a while before taking in her advice and throwing the ball up once again. Taking in a deep breath, Kageyama jumps and, using his arm more than his wrist, he smacks the ball and it is sent flying across the room. Shoyo receives the ball perfectly and, with just as much force, sends it flying back towards Kageyama. As soon as the ball is caught in his hands, he turns to look at YN. She smiles at him and gives him a small thumbs up. That was so cool! Shoyo yells, fist pumping the air. A small giggle escapes YN's lips. How the hell? Kageyama murmurs. Time skip after practice. YN high-fives Shoyo before he disappears into the changing rooms. YN leans against the doors leading into the gym and waits for him. Hey. A cold male voice suddenly interrupts the silence. And then YN jumps. She spins around and raises her eyebrows at the male. Hey, Kageyama, need something? You asked, tilting your head.
How did you do that earlier?
He mumbles, looking down at his shoes. Huh? Oh, has Shoyo not told you? YN replies, a hint of confusion in her tone.
Told me what?
Kageyama retorts. YN smiles at him. Well, I'm the captain of my school's volleyball team. Does that answer your question? She asked.
You play volleyball?
Kageyama stutters. Since when did I stutter? A voice at the back of his head whispers. YN merely hums in response. Then, would you mind? Kageyama got stopped in his words as a voice drowned out his question. YN, let's go! Shoyo yelled, grabbing YN by the wrist and pulling her away from Kageyama. Shoyo glances back and seems to just notice Kageyama was standing there. You walking with us, Kageyama? Shoyo asks. Sure. Kageyama murmurs, catching up to walk next to you. Wayan flashes him a grin. Glad you could join us, she comments. As soon as they got to the Hinata family home, Shoyo ran in, muttering quick goodbyes and saying something about Skyping Kenma, before disappearing. Wayan chuckled at her brother's childishness and gave Kageyama an apologetic glance. Well, I guess I'll be seeing you tomorrow, Kageyama, she mused, giving him a small wave before beginning to ascend the small stone steps. Wait! Kageyama yells, grabbing her wrist. Wayan looks back at him in shock. Huh? She questions, confused. Would you like to go somewhere to discuss volleyball tactics? He asks, before immediately regretting it. Wait. Kageyama is suddenly cut off by Wayan's laughter. He looks up at her, cheeks burning in embarrassment. I would love to, she replies, leaning down to peck him on the cheek, before turning away and reaching for her front door. Kageyama dares to glance up at Wayan, and he sees about to step inside the house. Feeling brave, Wayan spins around on her heels and grins at Kageyama. It's a date then. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and thank you guys for watching. If you have any requests, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I hope you have a wonderful day.